Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Shapes 2 video. Today, I believe, we'll be working on the side tasks that are loosely associated with Module 3. Let's jump into this save game and have a look at where we're at. I believe we're still on our way to just completing up Milestone 3 here. As you can see, we've finished that one here, so we'll unlock that, and we're well on our way. Well, we've really just started to complete this side task here. So we've got that shape coming in from up here, and that second shape coming in from all the way down here. So we'll let that continue to run, and we'll let this continue to run here in our home base. It's a good thing to check in periodically with your factory just to make sure that it's still flowing at an effective rate, and indeed it is, which is great to see. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump in to some more side tasks. And I believe we left off having a quick look at this bulk delivery. Now we're looking at a lot of grey shapes here, and just grey shapes. So let's see, have a quick look at our surroundings and see what we can make use of. Okay, why don't we pin them first, so we don't have to keep swapping back and forth. And that looks useful. That can easily be used to make that. What else have we got? And that also looks useful. You can easily make this shape. And look here. Perfect. We can make all three of those shapes relatively easily. And because each of these has a similar pattern, we should be able to just create one factory for one of these and then just copy and paste it for the other two. So why don't we go ahead and do that. First, we'll start off by getting our extractors and copying those, and then just pasting them here. And we've immediately got all 4 lanes going. Perfect. And we might make a second setup too. But before we bother with the second setup, why don't we start creating our factory? So we'll just bring this out here. And I do prefer to build in the north orientation when I can. Now, I think I'd like to use the swapper here, so we can just get a full shape, like so. So we'll go ahead and put a platform down, and move these out onto the platform. And the swapper is under the cutter. We might start with this right section, but we'll bring it all the way across here. I'll need it down one, I think. Oop. Or 2. Like so. Now without rotating, that's not going to do anything good for us. But with some rotation, it's going to change. Now I'm keeping an eye on this output here. So if you watch along with me, as I put the rotator and insert it, it's going to tell us what shape it's going to make. The clockwise, that doesn't look right. None of those are a full shape. If I tab across to the next one and put that in, no, that doesn't look quite right either. If I tab across to the 180 rotator, nope, none of that is right. So let's go back to the beginning. What if I put 2 of these down? So 1, 2, nope, 3, 4. No, none of that looks right. Okay, so the very basic easy method isn't going to work. That's okay. What if we play with both rotations? What's going to happen then? So if I rotate this lane one way and then this lane the other way, would you look at that? It looks like we've got ourselves a full shape. So it looks like we're going to need to rotate one lane clockwise once and the other lane anti-clockwise once. That's good to know. But because of that, we'll need a little bit of extra room here. I'm going to go ahead and take all of that, and just cut it and move it further along one. And why do I bother doing that? Because I just figured out we need to rotate both lanes. This one anti-clockwise, like so. I'll select all of these unrotated shapes and press I to clear them. And then I'll do the same here, except rather than rotating anti-clockwise, I'll be rotating clockwise 60 degrees. And getting rid of all those unrotated shapes. Reconnecting these lines back up together. And as we can see here, that's the shape that we're looking for. Now, we can simply just get rid of this extra portion. We'll put a trash on each of those. And Bob's your uncle. Now what I might end up doing is I'll send these lines above like so. And then that way, and then remove these underneath. And that way we can have a straight shot to connect this second line up. No, not quite. And then, look at that. We've just got a full belt with exactly the shape that we want here. There's only one layer, of course, but it is the shape that we're after. Perfect. But importantly, we're only using 2 of the 4 belts. So let's see if we can't replicate that. So if we copy this design, it is going to easily fit again into the same platform. Yes, it looks like it will. So let's throw that down and connect up these second 2 belts. I'm not sure why the output isn't showing for us yet, but it should come up soon. Ah, that's why. I've forgotten to unhide the top layer. So those 4 middle sections weren't copied across, so we'll do that now. And there we go, we've got our output here. Perfect. So all we need to do now is connect these back up to another output. We'll jump that above and then back down and throw that up there and there too. So we've turned these 4 lanes into 2 lanes of the full shape. Now, if we go back to our mining here, we could easily fit in another 4 miner. So I'll copy that and paste it around by holding Shift, which will allow me to at least paste 3 of the 4. Then just add a 3rd extension so we get all 4 here. And then I'll just select that whole platform and make the same thing over here and simply connect it up like so. Now, the only alteration that I'll make to this platform is, instead of putting these on the bottom layer of output, I'll throw them up on the second layer and connect these up like so. That way we can connect both these together, and they'll both use the same belt moving forward, and because they're already on the correct levels, we can simply go back to the stacker island that we've made already and copy that and place it just at the end here. And that should, although we're only using 2 of the lanes, that should conveniently stack the top on top of the bottom and output perfectly, as we can see here. And then very easily we just wrap that up to the main base, and Bob's your uncle. But before we do that, it looks like we've finished this shape here. Let's go ahead and unlock that. Perfect. And this number 10 side task looks somewhat similar to this number 8 side task. So instead of deleting it all completely, we can simply get rid of that line and this line, except they don't get thrown off into the abyss. Okay, that's not great. I thought they'd get trashed. We don't want this to stop, so I'll undo that just for now. The reason why we don't want this to stop is because, actually, does that matter? No, I don't think it would. You know what, never mind. We can safely get rid of that. My thinking was, if this backs up, then maybe that would affect this, but it shouldn't. Now these are now defunct, and we probably won't need them again, but just in case, I can cut them, and then I'll just place them beside this other setup, just for the future, in case I need to re-implement that. I can just easily visually do that there, rather than saving it in Blueprint or anything fancy like that. We've got plenty of platform units, so we don't need to worry about that. And this is fine to just hang here, although it visually looks like it's going off the belt. We zoom in here, it's actually stationary, and if we go back to this factory too, it's not continuing to float, which is fine. So, back to our stacked shapes here. As I was saying, we simply need to route this back into our home base vortex. Go ahead and do that. And then that looks fine. That should bring those up to the second level and throw them in here. Excellent. So that should be this shape complete in some time. Now, pardon me guys, that my cat is meowing for some food. Let me be right back. Okay, cat is fed. Let's get back into it. Okay, so we've just taken that input here with those plane shapes. I'm gonna go ahead and copy the whole setup. And we can use that both for this and that. That is in the same orientation already. So if we simply change our camera, press paste, and rotate twice, we can simply throw that on. We'll just check. Perfect. That's exactly the shape that we want. So all we need to do now is to route that in, and we'll deal with that in a second. We might as well get this third one running too. So I'll change the camera orientation back, and I'll just get rid of these pipes here, or belt I should say. And if we paste it again, rotating it again, perfect. But because this is in a different orientation, this is probably not going to come out the way that we'd want. And as you can see, we're missing one slice. So an easy fix for that is to get rid of these belts. And what we're going to do is you're going to simply rotate this shape once so that it is in the same orientation as these other two islands. So it looks like all we need to do is rotate it clockwise, 60 degrees. So let's go ahead and do that. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And just zoom in here. Now that looks the same, doesn't it? Do that again. And then just reconnect it like so. And now you can copy that and paste it over here. And the new shape should look like the others. Perfect. And then we just route that up to our home base. Now, what's an easy way of getting this into the vortex? What I might do is I'll transfer these two left belts onto the right hand too. So we'll remove this. And then add that like so. And that way I can use these other two to route the other two lines in. And as you can see, we've got them coming out. And as for this section, let's see. Before we get too convoluted, we have finished our third milestone. Now, are we really using any of these shapes again? Here. Not really. It almost looks like it. But we actually have the blue kind of Star Trek type shapes. Star shapes. But here we've got just the plain blue triangles. So I feel pretty safe in just getting rid of pretty much this whole thing now. That'll free us up to simply use this space predominantly for routing rather than making factories on. So I'll just triple check that before we do that. Yep, I'm happy. Goodbye, all of our hard work. Oh, we don't quite want to do that. Yeah, that looks right. And that too. And even to get out and get rid of all of these too. Do we want that? Not particularly. Let's remove that. And keep that for now, not that we're using that. Okay, so now we're looking at the second layer now. Just get rid of anything we're not using. Just really clean up this space. Perfect. So we've got those two coming in here. And now we just need these two. I suppose we don't need to put these on the second level anymore, do we? Up that. Yeah, that'll work. Just route these in, just to make it simpler for us. And there we go. Almost halfway done with these already, and we've got the other two on the way. Perfect. We'll just leave those. We might even bring this further across. We'll probably end up just deleting that, but we'll keep it for now. We'll just keep them over here, just so they're out of the way. Alright, so that's our bulk delivery task. They're all effectively complete now. We just need to wait a little bit, and we can start working on the wilted bulb. So we can unpin these. We can't unpin that. We can pin all of these. So it looks like we can use this multiple times. We're just adding 3 of those together to create that, then adding 2 of these together, stacking one on top of each other, and the top one rotating once, and then using that as the bottom base for this last shape here, with that red hexagonal shape on top. So we can go ahead and reuse this mining station here, what's currently being produced. Particularly helpful. I'm going to cut that, put that over here. I'm just going to start off super simple with a simple bottom layer. And because I prefer building things in the north orientation without inputs coming from the top, I'm just going to route these down a little bit before placing our first platform. So this is the shape we're starting with, and in fact yeah, so the left hand side of the shape is the one we want, and the right hand side we want to get rid of. So that should be a simple 180 turnaround with a slice or a half cutter. So why don't we start really working with platforms here and start creating a bit of a blueprint library. So this first platform is simply going to be a 180-degree rotator. So here's our rotator. That won't bore you with the connecting up. I'll just pause this for a second. There's the routing done. So let's simply just flip this shape upside down. And now the west half is the part of the shape that we do not want. So we can put this directly into another island, and this is simply going to be a half destroyer island. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Same on that side, and I'll do the same with the routing here. And now we see that we've destroyed the left hand side of the shape, and now we're simply left with the correct shape. If I rotate the camera here, you can see that lines up with that. Now this next step is completely unnecessary, however I'm going to do it just for the sake of keeping things really neat. I'm going to rotate this shape down back into the bottom orientation, just so it matches up with the requested shape in the right orientation if we're facing north. Go ahead and do that. There we see now, this platform, all this is doing is rotating the item clockwise 60 degrees and then another 60 to 120. Now the name is a bit misleading here, because it says 90, but that's for the base game. But with this hexagonal, it's really only 60. So in total 120 this platform is doing clockwise. And the beautiful thing about, obviously this is a tremendous waste of space. I could probably do all 3 of these functions in the 1x1 platform if I really wanted to. However, the benefit of this is it's nice and clean, it's doing one step at a time, and it's very modular. So this first one is 180, second one half destroyer, third one is 120. Now I'm going to go ahead and save these into my blueprints folder so I can have easy access to all of them, and I won't have to do this routing anymore if I'm after the same function, which I'm sure that I will be in the near future. So let me go ahead and do that. I'll just do the first one with you guys. So I'm selecting this first one. That's the 180 rotator. So select the platform, select save, 180, rotate, and save that on the hexagonal. If I have a look here, we've got that right there. I'll create a second folder for platforms, and I'm going to add that into the platforms folder here. So all of my blueprints for platforms is going to be into this subcategory here. I'm going to go ahead and do the same for these next two. I won't bore you with that. Here we go, I've now saved all three of those platforms. 120 clockwise, 180 rotator, and then half destroyer. You can see at the end of the line here, we've got exactly what we were looking for. So we can go ahead and route that into our home base and throw that into the vortex. And while that's traveling along, we can line these up. And it looks like we may have completed our first bulk delivery. It's going to unlock that, and the other two are well on their way. Fantastic. Now, while we wait for these next ones to complete, we can start creating the next section. So because I want to keep it north, I might go ahead and continue building south here. So one of these lanes is going to be in the right orientation already, but it looks like we're going to need 3 separate lanes. If we're going to do this on the platform scale. Of course, the very simple way is to just do everything on the one platform and just have one lane, second lane rotated, and then the third lane rotated again. But I prefer to do it on a bigger scale, just to make it super simple. So lane number 1 is going to be as is with no rotation. Lane number 2 is going to have a 120 rotation, and lane number 3 is going to have 120 counterclockwise rotation. So that can keep just funnel straight through. This one is clockwise. Do we have a clockwise 120 yet? We do. So we can throw that in right there. Is that correct? It is clockwise. Perfect. But we do not have an anti-clockwise one yet. So what I can do, I can select that and paste it here. It will just come in and edit these. So we'll get rid of that. We'll select counterclockwise and just put 2 of those in instead. It's as simple as that. You see those arrows are going this way, counterclockwise, and these arrows are going this way, clockwise. See the end result here? They end up on the top left, and these should be on the top right. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and save that blueprint because we don't have one of those yet. 120 counterclockwise, rotate it, and then put that in the platforms with the rest. Now let's go ahead down here and remake just a very simple stacker island. So here we have just a straight stacker. If we get rid of this temporarily, just got that left belt coming in, and then feeding these 6 stackers, and the outputs all being combined and come together here. And then I've just taken that design, copied and pasted it down here, like so. So the second line is coming in, and it's jumping over into the second stack. And it can come through, and the output down below, and the same here. And then we can just route these top sections as well. So that should take care of 4 of the 8 belts. And go ahead and copy all of that, flip it, rotate it twice, and paste it on the right hand side so it's mirrored. This design is complete. And go ahead and set it in our blueprints as 8 belt stack. Now, I might just bring this down a little bit. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to put this on the second level. So go ahead and create another platform, and all this platform is going to do is to transfer the north input up to the second level, like so. Very simple. Go ahead and save that as well. And we'll do the same thing over here. That's the beauty of the modular designs. You can easily copy and paste and get the same operation done at no extra cost. So I'm going to route that in and just put this down one again. And obviously we don't need all of this space, but just to make it super clear and simple to follow along, I'm adding a bit of space here to see what's really going on. So that belt just staying at the same orientation all the way along, and at the first level, and it's coming back in here, this second belt is being rotated 120 degrees clockwise, and then it's coming along and being lifted up to the second level. And the reason why that is important is because the stacker island that we've just created needs input from both the first and the second level, and then it uses those to combine. You see here we've now got 2/3 of that second shape. And that can continue on down the line. Now it may be helpful if I just put this down here. So we're now taking the same shape, but we've rotated it the opposite way, counterclockwise, so that it will now slot in nicely with the shape that we're creating here in the top right section. We're adding that to the second layer so that we can reuse this stacker platform that we recreated before. We'll put that down here. We'll combine up the belts. Just in case anyone has forgotten, I'm pressing C here as the anchor point, so I can turn at my leisure and continue to hold down the mouse button. I won't need all that, I'll just press right click to cancel, but I will be doing that. So this second level should be combining with the first level here and not interrupting any flow, but nicely joining in here. And then the same stacking operation should be happening here, with the end result being a beautiful second stage shape. Now we've used a lot of space here. That's very okay. We've finished with this now, so we don't need to route that any longer. We can bring this all the way back up and use that belt to deliver that final shape. And I hope that's all made sense to you guys. I've tried to make it as simple as possible. So just to reiterate one more time, starting with this shape, we're using this whole platform just to rotate 180 degrees so that we have the discard on the right side, and by right I mean the west side, and then we're using this whole platform just to cut and delete the west side, the left side, rotating clockwise 120 degrees just so it's in the right orientation. Not that that matters, but it is helpful to follow along with. And then splitting it off into 3 different pathways for the 3 different orientations. And then, as I've just gone over, I won't go over it again, ending up with this shape. Brilliant. So we'll go ahead and unlock these 2, completing the bulk delivery. Happy about that, and we'll unlock this first one too. Should be just about starting to deliver these now. And while we're waiting on that, we can start working on this next shape. It should be a very simple addition. So all we need is 2 lots of this shape. 1, 2. 1. The bottom shape will stay in its original orientation. The top shape will need to be rotated either clockwise or counterclockwise, just the once. So I don't think we have a blueprint saved for that yet, so let's go ahead and create one. Back in a sec. There we are, I've just finished creating the 60 degrees clockwise rotator platform and saved it to our blueprints. And then I'm going to use this previous platform, which I believe we have saved, first to second level. I'll add that here. And then we'll grab the stacker platform. And let's see what that looks like. That looks right. Brilliant. Now, we obviously don't need all these extra belt spaces. But again, just for clarity's sake, I did initially create it like so. But let me just tidy this up and condense it slightly just to show you guys that you don't need quite as much space here. We don't need that, don't need that, don't even need this, or that, or even that. So let's condense it out, or this. Now, I hope you guys are able to follow along there. I just took out all the middle sections that were unnecessary. But we still end up with the same result, and using the same platforms, we just condensed it, as opposed to the elongated version with extra belts. Don't feel bad if you want to continue to use that. It does help a little bit visually with what's going on, especially how the space belts display the shape when you zoomed out. Whereas here, you don't get to see what's really going on until you zoom right in. So we can go ahead and connect that belt back up to our home base. And while that's happening, we can go ahead and add this red triangle hexagon on top. Where can we get that easily? And this island here looks like a convenient place to take from, so why don't we start there? That's done something. That was helpful at some point. And perhaps we simply paste this down here out of the way. In fact, we might even just grab the whole thing. I'm holding shift here and selecting multiple items. And cutting the whole thing and just leaving it over here, just in case we need it again. But for now we'll just route here and down, and we'll work on establishing just a full red hexagonal shape. Now, from this image here, it looks like we want to rotate it counterclockwise 60 degrees so that we can simply erase the left hand side of the shape. Now we could of course create a swapper platform and do it that way, but just for now we'll keep it simple as we're still going through the early stages of platforms. So using our blueprints, we're going to try and find the 60 degrees counterclockwise, which we don't have yet, unfortunately, but that's an easy fix. So we'll place the clockwise version and just remove these, and then select counterclockwise building, and voila. Then we hit select, save, 60 degrees counterclockwise, rotate. Put it in the right folder, done. Yep. Perfect. That doesn't look right. Well, yes it does. Never mind. Okay. So now the next step along here is we want to destroy the west half. There we go. The half destroyer platform. We'll do that. And that should come out with just the red right hand side. And then we can split that into two. we'll keep this one in the same orientation, and we'll rotate this right hand side by 180. Using that platform. And then again, we'll transfer the right hand belt up into the second level. Recombine the belts to finish with a stacker. And you should be able to visually follow along here with the stages here. So rotating, that's disappeared. There we go, now we've got the left hand side, and then we're putting that onto the second level, and then combining the two. And we should end up with that top shape here. Oop, there we go. There we go, just had to wait a little while, but we can now see that we have that shape that we were after. If we scroll all the way out, we can now belt that across. We might even put that on the right hand side. So you can see here, see again. And that should eventually make its way across here, back to our production line. And you see we've split ourselves off here. Now that is currently on the first level. So what are we going to have to do? We'll have to transfer that to the second level again. Continue this line down. And then add them both together. That's what we did previously. Sort of. And then let's add them both together into a final stacker. And we can route the end result back into that belt. It's going to take us all the way back to the hub. Now, the downside, of course, of using all these connecting belts is we do extend the time it takes to get back to the hub. So if you can avoid using any excess belts, I would recommend it because of the timing difference. But it's not a big deal. Now these don't look like full belts to me. Why might that be the case? Because splitting it in thirds, that's why. So this is going to reduce rate. That's okay. I don't feel the need to add much more to this. It's just a side task here. I'm happy to wait for that to eventually flow through. But what we can do is we can start working on the next tasks. How many of these can we do fairly easily without needing to use paint? I think it's just up to and including number 11. I can't see any green triangles in our close vicinity here. Okay, so we might finish up this video by completing number 11, or at least starting on the last of that. And these are all technically complete now. The factory is there. We could probably, this is quite close to being completed. So if we have a look at this first route is that shape here. So we can get rid of these. There's still quite a lot of that shape on this belt here. And that should be more than enough to complete the 1200. So I've gotten rid of that, which means more of that shape will come down into the second and third factory, reducing those last two shapes. We'll leave that as is and continue on with our next go here. Now, luckily for us, we've already got a design here creating that shape for us. So we could either simply route that straight up into here, or we could just copy and paste this design and use this other section here. And I think that's what we'll opt for. So let's go ahead and do that, except this time I'll condense this a little bit. And I'll also rotate it 180 degrees. Copy. Just so we're headed in the right direction back to the hub. We'll spin the camera around. Rotate that around. Place it like so. And then we'll just condense this as well. I'll do that off camera. There we are. We've just gotten rid of the excess belts here. Go ahead and connect that up. And then through this, scrolling out, straight into our hub. And we'll connect that up here. Like so. Yeah, get back into our comfortable north orientation. We'll also complete that task. We'll unpin that for now, and then we'll pin these last ones here. So we've just established a belt route that'll take us to a hub using just this, and the next shape that we're aiming to make is this the two little grey teardrops, which can be easily sourced. And then we could source them from this one up here, but because we're already using this to create full shapes like that, particularly that's going to be helpful, you might just leave that alone. And the reason is this: I've just checked our tasks and see here we need to deliver that shape, and once we unlock painting we'll be able to color that shape red and deliver that as well. And same sort of deal here, we have those, we're making those full shapes already, we just need to add color to them. So that's the reason why I'm not going to touch and reroute that, even though we're not currently needing that. We will soon into the future. So that means that one's safe, that one's safe, and that one's safe. We'll leave those as is, and instead we will go ahead and use this island here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and set that up. So grab the extraction set up here. That'll work just fine. And what do we want to do with this shape? It's not currently in a good orientation, but if we rotate it, let's see, 120 degrees clockwise, then we'll get what we're after. Let's do that. And then, just to show you guys, I'll put the belts in. The half destroyer. And then we'll be good to go and stack it up. But we might as well put it onto the second level first. That should all be working, but we're traveling the wrong way compared to this other line here. So we'll take the whole thing, cut it, and rotate it. Rotate it here, like so. And then if we bring this along to line up in parallel to this belt here, we should be able to make a stacker. That's going to be in the north orientation. We need to rotate it 3 times. Place it like so. Funnel both of these belts in, and then we can simply reconnect it back to the output line. Now let's just check this. So that's being rotated. That should be being cut. Now wait just a second. Does that look right? Yeah. If you've got it in the north orientation, that looks right. There's them coming down here, and it should be stacked up. Let's pause the recording for a sec. Here we go, we can see the grey shape coming along through this path now, and it should come out here momentarily and connect itself up. And there we have it. We've got that second shape coming along now, perfectly. That's what we want. Now, this is part of the reason why I like staying in the north orientation and having these shapes rotated as such. It's because it's just easy visually to create the right shape. And it looks like we've completed that red shape now. So we can unlock that. We can also prevent this red shape from going straight through anymore. So now everything is going to be routed into the stacker here. So we're going to maximize our counts towards this next shape. And this is why it's helpful to start on the next shape while the previous one is still counting up. Because especially if you have long belts like this, you're going to have plenty of shapes left to deliver. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and create the next version of this shape, which adds another 2 teardrops. Let's come back along here, and because I believe this is a full belt, is it a full belt? It doesn't look like it's a full belt. No, it's not, it's only half a belt. Okay. Well, what about that? That looks like a full belt. A full 4 belts, that is. That's what I'm referring to, the saturation of the belts. And this looks like half saturation of 4 belts. So I won't need to bother creating another mine here, because we're only using half of the contents of this belt compared to the full contents of this belt. So I can simply route half of this away without losing any throughput for the last bit here. As you can see, there's no backup of the red, but there is a backup of the grey. I hope that makes sense. Now, we go back into the north orientation. You can see we've got the two grey teardrops on the bottom right. We now want them also on the bottom left. So what does that mean? We're going to need to rotate it 120 degrees clockwise. So let's go into our blueprints, 120 degrees clockwise. And we see here it's in the north orientation. So we're just going to rotate it 3 times and throw it there. And then, of course, using the stackers, we're going to need one of these belts on the upper level. So we'll throw that in here. And now, no, let's keep north. Actually, no. We'll move it this way because we're building down. Now we want to select that, choose the stacker, and we'll copy that again. And we'll bring this down, bring that down, and then connect them back up. And if we reposition north, we still have half of that going to complete this shape, but then the second half should be coming into here and then connecting with, I'll just pause here until that loads for us. And in fact, what I might do is I'll go ahead and upgrade the speed of our belts and our buildings again. Just so I don't have to wait so long for these visuals to come through, and then I'll repause it until they do. Aha, I just realized something. So this is a fault on my end actually. So I have elevated this line very early on. So this space belt, this shape is actually on the second level, which means that's not actually flowing through to the rest of our platforms here. So what I think I'd prefer to do is upgrade that level way later in the line. So I'll get rid of that and have that flow through on the first, and then that could be upgraded here. And when I say upgraded, it simply means elevated, so it can stack on here. But this belt is now going to be full of incorrect level, so I'll just cut that and repaste it. So now we're definitely going to have to wait a while, but it should eventually come together. So let me pause again. There we go, guys, that's looking better. So we've got that come through now. We have rotated it into the correct position, elevated it, and then added that back to the stackers here. And then that's now producing the final shape. And because this one is almost done already, we can get rid of that routing so that all of that shape flows straight through into this stacker here, so that now we're only producing this. But that should continue to count up because quite a bit of this belt is still full of that shape. It still takes time to get to our vortex. There we are. We're now just producing this shape. And we see here, that's finished. We'll unlock that. And we'll take a look at this next one that simply adds two opposite blue little star type triangles. And where is an easy place to get that from? I know that we can get them from the middle, but I'd like to avoid using these now, as I just like to keep it nice and clean and simple and use this space just for routing into the vortex. Luckily for us, we have a conveniently located option here where we can use these blue triangles. Now we'll just take a quick look at the output of this current shape, and it looks to be this will actually show you, which is very convenient. I was going to say it looks to be about half the throughput, and indeed it is, roughly half, at 60 shapes a minute, where the maximum of our current upgraded belts is now 120 a minute, as we can see in our upgrades here. So that's running at half capacity, so all we need is a half capacity, 4 belts at half capacity for these blue triangles here. So let's get started. Now, in order to be heading in the right direction, we'll work in the south orientation, so we'll just need to remember to rotate all of our buildings twice, or a platform, sorry. And just keep this nice and simple. We'll start off by destroying half of the shape, rotate twice, and place. And that should leave us with the right hand side. And then if we rotate it counterclockwise twice, we'll end up with just one blue triangle. Oop. Now hold on a second. See, this is why I don't like working in an orientation other than north, because I get mixed around. So we're looking south here, which means we're not cutting the, well, we are still cutting the west shape, but in the north orientation, the west shape is the left hand side. Whereas we're looking at that, and it's now the right hand side. So it gets a little bit trickier when you don't keep the same orientation. So why don't we stay north, but we'll still continue to build up this way. So that destroys half, which is still fine. Now we've rotated, what do we now end up with? No, we haven't, because we've placed that the wrong way around. Okay. In any case, okay, so with this shape, we want to rotate clockwise twice before cutting again. So let's grab the clockwise rotator, 120, but we'll need to rotate the position of that so that it travels up instead of down now. And then add a belt for visual clarity, and then we'll add a second half destroyer. Add that to the end, and then should be left with just the blue triangle. And after that, we can split that off into two, but neither one of those blue triangles is going to be in the orientation that we want. So we'll be rotating both of these one, wait, 120 degrees clockwise, and the other 60 degrees anti-clockwise. Yep, that makes sense. Counterclockwise. Now we should have one on the left, one on the right now. Let's just visually confirm that is the case. Yep, we've got the left one showing up. And yes, now we have the right one showing up. Now we're obviously getting uncomfortably close to the rest of our build. So now I'm going to backtrack a bit and just select this whole thing, cut and paste, just so we have a little bit more room. And we may even cut this to give us a bit more room even still. So one of these is going to need to go up on another level if we're going to use the stacker, which we will. We'll have still a bit too close for my liking, so I'll just condense that slightly. I'll get the stacker and add that to the end. And it should leave us with the correct orientation. It's just those two little blue pieces. And from there, what we can then do is add it to the second level again, like so, and then combine it. Here, and get rid of these, because we've completed all of those shapes now. And add another stacker. And that should add both of them together. Let's just check that this is correct. So yes, we see that that shape is now coming together nicely. That's simply elevating it, and then that should come out with them both combined here. And there we have it. We'll zoom in here. That looks quite right. We can just check this as well. Does that look the same as the other? That's a cool little trick too. If we select the belt, the shape will come up here, and then we can select on that and have a closer look. Perfect. So we can just wait for that to complete, and we can have a look at the tasks and unlock this. We've finished with that. We've started on that. And then importantly now, we've unlocked this, we've completed all of those that's necessary. And now we're just waiting on this shape to complete. And we can speed this up by now removing the routing of this shape. So let's go and find that. Scroll out. Come back over here. And we see we're taking half of the output of this and adding this shape in, which we no longer need. We want all of that output going down into this stacker here and creating that final shape. Perfect. Now there's just one thing left to do before we complete all of these side tasks that we've set out to accomplish. and that's to start working on these final two green teardrops. Now that looks like a fairly simple solution here, with this island up here having the two green teardrops connected together already. So let's go ahead and mine that. So use the mine over here, throw that down. Now, in order to get rid of these grey teardrops, we're going to rotate it 60 degrees clockwise. And then we're going to use a half destroyer. And then, because the two green ones should be in these two quadrants, and we want them, whoop, that's not the right shape, here. So the green ones are currently in these two quadrants, and we want them up in the top two, so we want to rotate them once, twice, and this way. So that's counterclockwise, 120. In each rotation is 60 degrees, so 1, 2, 120 counterclockwise. See, that's what I was explaining here. That's where the orientation that they're currently at. So 120 counterclockwise, yep, that's the platform we want. Throw that down, and we should end up with them in the right orientation. We're facing north, which is what we've been building in already. Okay. Can send this all the way down, and because we haven't yet currently, although we've completed it, haven't pressed unlock, we don't yet have space pipes. They work similar to the second level in our factories, except it goes underneath rather than above. But we don't need to worry about that just yet. Because we're not currently using this shape, we can simply remove these belts and instead send these through. Now, in order to use our stacker again, we'll need one of these two lines to be on the second level. We'll go ahead and add that in and rotate it until it's in the correct orientation. It's on the second level. And we want to stack these. Yes, stack these on top of one another. However, we might not quite have enough just yet, maybe. So instead we siphon off from this line. Add a stacker here, rotate, 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 and then add that back onto the main line. And once that shape is complete, we can remove this. So then all of it goes up into the stacker. And that should be about done. Just pause briefly to make sure we're creating the right shape. And there we are. Visually, it looks correct. Oh, and would you look at that? We've finished that shape now. It's just ticked off. We'll remove those two belts so that the entirety of that belt is now being funneled into this final stacker, creating this final shape. We'll just have a quick look at this island. We're adding those two green teardrops just neatly into the empty section of that shape. Like so. And the right orientation and everything was made easy by striving to continue to work with the north facing up. That has made it quite easy to visually match up our shapes where we've needed them to be. And we see now that that shape is currently being counted up. We'll go ahead and unlock this one. And I've almost finished with this wilted bulb as well. And that'll be it, ladies and gentlemen. That's our last two side tasks that we had desired to complete for this video. And all that's really left to do now is wait, and we'll postpone unlocking the third milestone until the next video. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed following along with this video in getting through the side tasks. I hope I've been clear enough for you all. And until next time, hope you guys have a blessed week. Bye for now.